Sorry, I need a break. I heard I'm an all-star. So, you know what they say? Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. Mm, 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 mm. How was your all-star break, Beyond?
Good. Maybe not as good as yours, but yeah, good nonetheless.
Tasted fantastic. Yeah, you know what? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in on To The Point with the King. You guys find us Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Wakanda Forever. And thank you guys for enjoying our fantastic guests that come on here. And thank you guys for your support. I told you, once we get to 750, that brand new Raptors hoodie is out there for one of you. Now, speaking of our amazing guests, right now we got my man, Beyond the Locker Room. I call him B. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Just got that rest from that All-Star break and ready to go for these last 25 or so games, man. The sprint is on.
Sprint is on. I would kind of consider it more of a marathon now because they winning the chip with these next 20 some odd games.
Can they get playing? That's the question.
Hey man, let's bring some love and joy to the city, right?
Right.
But speaking of the break, and damn, that Kit Kat tastes good. What did you take away from the All-Star break festivities that took place last weekend?
A mixed bag, I would say. I think overall, the NBA's been trying. They tweak it all the time. They try to make improvements to this weekend. I think overall it's not in a bad place for the overall weekend and spectacle. For example, I think the Friday night, the All-Star, start the celebrity game. I know a lot of people don't care about it, but
I was going to ask you about that because I didn't know anybody in that game.
Hey man, showing our age in this case here, man, that's not meant for us, okay? But I think what they've done is they've gotten people that actually know how to play basketball. If you go at the early stages of it, it was pretty rough for the most part. Whereas like you didn't really have a guy that actually used to play, and it was like, ugh. Now it's like, okay, it's not gonna be the best of quality, but now at least some folks know how to play basketball, so it's not as unwatchable as it was before. I do like what they've done. Yeah, exactly. I do like what they've done with the court and using the court as like another character in it, which has kind of made it really interesting. And to the point I made earlier, it kind of gets, hopefully to get more younger eyeballs to watch. Moving to the Rising Stars, I think that's probably where the best thing they've done, which is like split them up into different teams. And we get to see not only the young stars, the new young up and coming stars of the league, but also you get to see.
Yeah. Let me ask you this one now. I know what you're getting at. Scottie Barnes in the skills challenge.
Yeah.
That was a highlight for me.
Yeah, the Scottie Barnes skills challenge was. I mean, his shooting was great. A little tough in the dribbling, but overall, he did much better than
throwing it up over his back like that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see a lot of Scottie's personality. He has a bit of a goofy side to him at times, but hey, it's all part of the fun and spectacle. And I think that skills competition, they've tweaked it quite a bit, but I think it's in a pretty decent spot. And that leads us to the 3-point competition, which is probably at this point the most consistent thing for performance every year. It was also, once again, it was another great 3-point competition. There's nothing much more to say. I mean, the guys were shooting it like no one's business. We had buzzer beaters to get into different rounds. Dame time was on every round. What more can you ask for when it comes to that? And then that little part there with the cameo, which was an interesting thing. I'm not sure they need to do it every year.
I thought
the Steph Sabrina thing was really good and compelling.
But then you got to bring out the greatest 3-point shooter, what they say, arguably, right? I still bring Larry and Reggie in there in that conversation, but you brought him out, and like I said on the last show with Coach Tim Roach, shout out to you. You had Steph versus Sabrina, which was and I've asked the people online to, like, with their extremism, to not like bring it man versus woman, to keep it simple and clear that it's just two people that can ball that are shooting. And to me, that was a highlight. And Steph is my guy that's currently playing in the league. We all know Kobe's my guy, but Steph is my current guy in the league. And I loved what I saw. She really put him on his heels. I don't know. What do you think about that? That was the highlight to me. That was the best part.
One of the highlights. It was it was great theater. It was great fun. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know why so many people in this day and age are so threatened and upset about basic things. Like, dude, it's people hooping. And it's like just fun stuff. It's like, hey, it's like fancy stuff. Hey, what if so-and-so was able to go against so-and-so? This is the type of stuff you want. This is where you do these type of crazy things like this. So I thought it was great. I watched her performance last year. I happened to flip on the TV. I was finishing up work. And then for some reason, the 3-point competition for the WNBA was at some strange time right after work, around 4 or 5 o'clock. And I happened to watch it, the round that she was in. And then her round came up. And at first I was sitting there going, okay, she hit the first round. Then the second round happened. Like, holy smoke. And then she just kept going. I must admit, my mind was bogged. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So to have that's great. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be something every year. I know that people are saying, well, you get Caitlin Clark next year and stuff like that. That would be cool, but I don't know if it necessarily needs to be something that can be happening. So so we'll see. I don't know if it necessarily needs to happen, or maybe you flip it the other way. Maybe it's for like the WNBA All-Star Game. Maybe someone like Steph or something comes there. To kind of to share the wealth a little bit, which would be a cool little thing like that. But yeah, it's for a one-off. I thought it was great.
I thought that was the best part. And honestly, the one part that really disappointed me, I was on the phone with my boy, my best friend. Him and I, when we play, we're like Stockton and Malone. And I was disappointed in the All-Star game itself.
Whoa,
to me,
okay.
I saw it as a glorified 3-point contest. Okay. The only people I really seen dunking was Giannis and Scottie.
I didn't LeBron really see early on.
Yeah, I really didn't see anybody dunk it. I want to see some dunks. I want to see some behind the back alley-oops thrown. I want to see that instead of just somebody just like coming up to the logo and trying to drain one. To me, it was boring. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I turned it off at the beginning of the fourth quarter. I was like, I'm better off going to sleep, spending my time doing that.
Yeah, I pretty much was doing the same thing. I found something else to watch, and I just popped back in to see what the final total was. But I think, like, my theory has been, I posted on X, I've mentioned it on Basketball Rewind. Check that out, folks. And I said at the time, I still maintain this. I've been saying this for a few years. Remove the 3-point line from the All-Star game. And I think it will trigger some different outcomes. Because my theory is that.
Whoa. Okay. Explain.
Yeah. Explain, because you guys said it right there at the top of your intro. When you have the 3-point line and you guys are pulling up from 40 feet, no one's going to defend in an All-Star game a guy from 40 feet. And no one needs to go into the paint if a guy's 40 feet, because you're incentivizing folks for the extra point. So if you take away the 3-point line, a guy shoots it from 40 feet, from a scoring tally standpoint, it don't make a difference. Shoot your 40-footer if you want. It's still the 2 points you got to dunk or layup. Knock yourself out. And now we'll force guys now. It's like, okay, well, we got to attack. Maybe I got an and one to get 3-point plays. Now guys instinctively will play defense because the guy's trying to get to the hoop. If there's nothing like that and we just got to roll one way and just go the other way and just shoot 3 after 3, no one's running a set. It's not basketball. It's just a 3-point competition.
Thank you. To me, it was just a glorified 3-point competition.
Right. Because the 3-point competition in that type of contest it's too strong a variant, right? Because if you had to look at the two teams on paper, right?
Which variant is it? I'm kidding.
Right, exactly. I know. Our previous day offline good conversation. If you look at it, no doubt the West had the better team. But the West in this case, all they had to have was a hot shooting night from the East, which they did, and it was a wrap. Didn't matter how much talent the West had, which is the strength to play inside. But in this case here, the 3-point shooters for the most part on the East. And that's where it's like it's too dominant of of a factor, and to remove it from the All-Star game, I think will help a lot of things. I think there's some other elements I don't think they can get away from. I think part of it is, part of it's the money. Hey, there's no two ways about that. Part of it is free agency, to be honest with you, right? Like,
part of it is like, hey man, you want to come play on my team next year?
No, I'm not even going that front. I think if you look at, everyone talks about the old school way. What happened the old school way? We could close our eyes and you could pick a team in the 90s from the Western Conference, and you almost knew 10 of the 12 All-Stars already because they're gonna play every year. Same with the East. Go with the 80s, 90s, maybe up to the aughts. You kind of knew because they played for those conferences. The fact that free agency now is so prevalent, right? Everyone's back and forth. There's no connection, right? So it's like, there's nothing like, hey, it's like, we're going to go after these guys. There's no connection because one year a guy could be playing for the Western Conference. Next year he play for the Eastern Conference. 3 years from now, he could be back to the Western Conference. I like Kevin Durant, right? Like, there's no connection in that sense. So, like, it doesn't have any there's nothing to tether it. So to me, that's a big part of it. There's some other elements too. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on them in this case here, but I think some, not all, but some of the European players don't have the same type of, like, aura about the All-Star game as like maybe some of the American players that grew up watching it. And I think that's another thing too. Like, let's face it, man, Jokic and Doncic could give two hoots about playing this game.
They didn't give a goddamn rat's ass about that game. Did you see when Luka went to go dunk and he was like, yeah, he got rimmed, and he just turned around. He's
right.
Right? Yeah. He was just like, whatever. Joker threw a ball, missed. And he was like, whatever.
So I don't know how you get around that, is what I'm saying. I think the 3-point line might help a little bit, but there is elements of it. And I think also too, is the type of players that are in the All-Star game, right? Because we had a really good one a couple of years ago with the Elam, right? But look at the guys that were on the teams at that point, right? You had some gritty dudes on there. Lowry was on the team, So
when he took all those charges?
Right, yeah. That game was one of the best ones we've ever seen. We had Siakam in the game. We had guys that were kind of hustle and move around and stuff like that. Take, whoever you want. And you still had some guys in the case from the old guard that were still part of that group. Be it Klay Thompson, stuff like that. Now we don't have that now. And now you have a different generation now that's, that come out. And I think one of the problems with this newer generation, I think, and to be fair, I'm not trying to pick on them in this case. I think it's a natural thing, it's a societal thing. No one wants to kind of put themselves out there to be vulnerable because everyone knows in this case that they try something, they're going to get ripped. That's the reason why the slam dunk competitions are a bit in the same state, and that's the reason why in this case the All-Star game is the same state. Because no one wants to actually play defense on a guy gets crossed over, and everyone's got on the highlight film, everyone's got on Twitter and Instagram and everything like that. That's what these guys are worried about. Old school heads don't care. Like LeBron missed the alley-oop dunk, banked on it. It's like, oh well, so be it. So be it in this case here. But most
and then he dropped an air ball after from 3 points.
Right, but anyway, he don't care though, right? Like that's the thing. But he's not frightened of the risk. A lot of these young guys are so worried about the risk, about how it looks for their brand. No one's willing to do it. I give Jaylen Brown credit for doing the dunk competition, even though he stunk at it. But I give him credit because at least he was a legitimate top player trying to do dunks. Now, you can see the difference of how he did dunks versus McClung, because he actually had something to actually play for. McClung here, in this case, the most money you might ever make in basketball. $350,000. He ain't never seen any money like that playing basketball ever again. So he is willing to break his neck to make dunks. Jaylen Brown, he trying to do so. He trying to win championship.
That last second D Brown?
Right. That is like, I ain't trying to mess up my ankle because I got a playoff run. So I'll pretend I'm doing it while I land and then do that. Like, that's the difference, right? Like, guys don't have the risk. They're not willing to take the risk because they feel like in this case, they don't want to get kind of like called out in this case in social media. That element, I think, has to be considered as well, too. Because what I would do, as far as the dunk competition goes, I would try to recruit as many of the young potential stars you have, the Shaden Sharps, the Benjamin Matherins, so on and so forth, to get them in the game to do the dunk competition and maybe give them a reward. Maybe it's something you work out with something 2K. I had the idea with the basketball rewind guys. Maybe their rating gets an extra jump on 2K, or maybe they get to be, maybe in this case, if they win, they get to be one of the cover boys next year's NBA 2K game or something. Those things mean something to guys like that. Strangely enough, that's what means things for them. Because
that's interesting that you say like these guys are putting risk over reward because there really isn't a reward.
Exactly. For them, there's no win for them, right? There's no win. Because back the day when you used to do it as a young star, even Waraich All-Star, the win was, hey man, I do this, I'm gonna be on Wee's boxes, get more endorsements, blah, blah, so on and so forth. Half these dudes already got endorsements of some sort, in this case, be it locally or nationally, before they even step through the door.
Yep.
Right? Wembanyama already got as many endorsements as some other dudes in this case. Why do you need to be on a slam dunk competition? Right? There's no need.
It wouldn't look good if Wemby were to do the slam dunk.
No, but I'm just saying,
like,
right. But I'm just taking whichever top.
I want to see like a 5'2" guy, like a Muggsy Bogues, dude.
Right, but all these dudes, right? You got Scoot, for example. Scoot got crazy dunks. He's got great dunks, but like, there's nothing in it for these guys, is what I'm saying, right? And that's where you have to find some type of incentive that it's like, where it's like, oh, if it's something that can help build their brand, that's why I use the 2K example as a possibility.
That's why these guys should be in Rutgers Park going at it.
Even now they don't do that. That used to be something guys do, but no one wants to do that, right? Durant used to play there once in a while, and all the guys, Kobe back in the day, I think even LeBron might went one time. Nobody does that anymore because once again, no one wants to get caught on a highlight reel on Instagram and getting crossovers from some dude from down the street.
Yeah, but who cares about that? That, to me, that's a real ball. That's what I told my boy while we were watching the dunk competition. I mentioned to him, I'm like, I'd rather go to Rutgers and watch a dunk competition.
But hey, man, look, how many times we seen it, man? You get the post-game conversation going, someone gets in the locker room, now they can go back to the locker rooms as journalists, and they put the microphone to some guy's thing, right? And what you see his teammate beside him, what is he doing? That's the first thing they're doing.
Yeah.
They ain't even check their stats, really. Right? That's the world we live in. And it's not just an NBA thing, that's a real world issue.
That's the world we live in. Now, because we live in this world, heading into the future, okay? Can we talk about Scottie Barnes' impact during the All-Star Weekend, how that can affect the Toronto Raptors going forth within their last few games for the season? Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, quite possibly a play-in. Don't expect a chip. Okay?
Well,
so calm down.
I'm not even sure expect the play-in. We'll see. Right now, your play-in chances lie on pretty much a ripped up thumb by Trae Young. That's your hope right now, folks. That's your hope.
But what do you think Scottie Barnes' impact has taken? Because we've seen all-stars from the Raptors: Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Freddie VanVleet, right? And now the torch has been passed to him. What do you think that does for the Toronto Raptors?
Okay, so here's the thing I'll say. All those other Raptors that have made the All-Star teams in the past, I think they kind of knew what type of player they were by the time they got to become an All-Star. They knew where their bread was buttered. I think what makes Scottie so interesting is that he's a bit of an enigma, that you're not really sure what Scottie is. We're trying to figure out what Scottie is. I think Scottie's trying to figure out what Scottie is. And I think one of the things that have come out of the All-Star break, I don't know if he had a little talking to with some of the other players, maybe some of the vets around him, that kind of said, look, man, if this is your team, you got to act like this is your team type of thing. Because his approach post All-Star break, I would just say, folks, look at the shot chart and look and see where he's taking those shots. Look at the free throw attempts and look how many more free throw attempts he's taking now than pre-All-Star game. He is being much more aggressive, finding his ways to attack the hoop, which is something I've been begging for like 2 years. Finally, we're seeing that. You're 6'10", 245 pounds, built like a Greek god. Go in there and knock some people over and try to dunk the ball on people. Enough of the flip shots. Finish strong and get to the rim and get the free throw line. Don't get me wrong. Right, I get it. We're in the 3-point world.
But when he did this to Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I don't know what's in him Bridges, but we're in a 3-point world. I get it, but hey, when it's all said and done, when we get the spring and it gets warmer outside, it's amazing how those 3-point shooters all of a sudden it starts getting real dried up and dusty. Because when it's all said and done, you better have a mid-range. You better get the paint in the playoffs. That's how you win championships. All the 3-point shooting's all fine dandy, but I ain't gonna be where your bread's buttered when it gets to get the postseason time. So that's where I see his approach has been different, and I like what I see so far.
Do you think it's a positive for the Raptors as a team
Oh yeah,
in general.
yeah, yeah. I think when you see things like this, that's the reason why I was disappointed when he wasn't selected for the U.S. select team. Those are things you want to be around those type of players, your peers. Not only does it give you the confidence as a player, it also, it's no different than any other industry, right? When you go to certain conferences, in this case here, of
And you're
wherever
with the
industry,
best of the best.
and you're at the best, and you're trading ideas, you're understanding, like, oh, this is what they do. Oh, this is how they prep. Oh, when you see, he goes there and sees what LeBron and Durant are doing to prep in this case. Oh, this is how they're handling their business. Okay, then these are things you start kind of putting in your little bank in this case here. It's like, all right, then this is what I need to be starting to do. This is how I got to kind of see if I'm going to see myself like this. And you see it all the time coming off like national teams when you have Olympic things or FIBA, and you see a jump the next year. We saw it with Vince, for example. Vince, in Australia with Afro Vince, and the next year he was out of the play of his mind. You see these jumps happen, and then now we're seeing a little bit of a blip like this now with Scottie. This is good. This is good for the team, man.
All right, Beyond. Thank you so much. We're running out of time, my brother. I'm just gonna finish off on that point and say, I think now that Scottie has inherited the face of the franchise, and other teams are looking to defend him and thinking of him as the number one option for your Toronto Raptors, right? And it's putting more pressure on him. I think he's really been holding it down extremely well. I think his selection to becoming an all-star due to injury from another player, right? I think it's well-deserved, and I think he should have had it from the beginning. And he can win this year. You never know. He can win most improved player because he's just exponentially getting better.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think you'll win that. I think
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Maybe
that trophy's edge for Tyrese Maxey. That's okay.
Maybe 1 or 2 votes. Maybe 1 or 2 votes.
A couple votes, but yeah.
But it's helping to propel the Toronto Raptors in the right direction. And ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you guys are very impatient, especially after 2019, but stick with it. This kid is going to help the Raptors bring a championship if he stays here in the city of Toronto.
I'll make this quick point here. I would say don't view Scottie as like a big time 25 point per game scorer. I don't think he's gonna be that type of player.
He can't.
I think he'll be more, in the vein of like share it out. And I don't want to say certain names when people start going crazy and certain names, but there's been archetypes like this in the past where he might be 20, 21, 19 points per game, but he does a bit of everything. He's like the straw that stirs the drink. And I think
like a Tim Duncan-esque kind of thing, right? Just point forward, grab it, look. Okay, do I not? Do I pass?
Tim Duncan was 25 and 26 a night, my friend.
I know. I know, but no, like those players where they know their role, and especially when you have guys like RJ and IQ coming off him, right? And now the dick is getting harder. These jokes write themselves. No, but seriously, now that it's starting to come together and they're starting to build some sort of chemistry, Scottie can actually keep an eye on everything. I see him as a floor general. And I think his experience that weekend at the All-Star game, the All-Star Weekend, is really going to help propel the Raptors in general, because he can bring that knowledge, like you said, learning from those guys. He could bring that knowledge to the players that are on the squad. Do you agree with me? Yes or no?
No, I think so. I think it's all positive, man.
All right. Beyond, thank you for coming on, man. I much appreciate this. It's late at night. We're doing this for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm probably going to get 3 hours of sleep. So, Beyond, do you have anything to tell the people where to find you?
Just at Beyond Locker Room RM, in this case on X, formerly Twitter.
All right. X. Wakanda forever. You guys know where to find me. Find me. You know where I live. So on behalf of myself and Beyond, and my man Arturas producing this video, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and